Yeah, a couple of years ago, I was playing touch football and I started to get this pain in my chest. And it didn't make much sense to me at the time. It was on my right side here, and not where my heart should be. So I didn't think it was anything to do with my heart. I thought, well, I'm getting old and I'm just not fit. And so I trained harder, and the pain got worse. Anyway, so I end up going to see my doctor and then a whole series of tests, and I end up in an operating theatre. And they've told me they're going to give me a stent. And I thought, you beauty, a stent. That fixes everything. So they're sticking a catheter up through my groin and up to my heart. And suddenly the guy in the control room comes running out and he says, hang on, hang on, hang on. We can't give this bloke a stent because it's a bifurcated artery. And the trouble with the bifurcated artery is the blockage is just where it breaks into two. So they can't give me a stent because you don't have three-way stents. So they said, okay, come on, back to your room. We'll have a talk about this. Anyway, so the doctor goes in, and I had to laugh at him because he sort of took on this salesmanship attitude. You know, he's going to convince me that we can have a bypass. And he says, well, what we'll do is we'll get a scalpel and we'll cut you down the middle, and then you become a member of the Zipper Club, where the scar is. And then we get out the buzz saw, and we cut our way through the sternum with a little buzz saw, and then we get some clamps and we open up your rib cage, and we reach in and we grab your heart and we turn it over, and on the back of the heart there's this lovely little artery which is just the right size for a bypass. What do you think about that? And I says, I think that stinks. In fact, that sounds really dumb to me. And he says, well, why is that? And I said, well, if you've got a blockage in your sink in the bathroom at home, you don't go and get a whole bunch of plumbing and stick it around and go around it. What you do is you get instant Drano and you clean out the blockage in the sink. I said it's common sense. And he says, well, we don't have anything like that. We can't help you. And I said, well, don't be like that. Like, give me a year or two and I'll go off. I mean, we're putting spaceships on Mars. There must be somebody out there that's worked out a Drano for the heart, for the artery. So, let me see if I can find it. Anyway, so we shook hands on that, and off I went. Anyway, I went out and I bought a EECP machine. I forget what EECP stands for, but anyway, it turned out that it was a waste of money. It didn't work, and that cost me about $28,000, which was a complete waste. And then I started reading articles on the internet, and I was looking at this guy called Kyle Hodgetts, and he was in LA, and he'd worked out a way that a thing called a cyclodextrin, which is just a starch, but he was getting great success with cleaning out his own heart, and so I kept looking for his name, and I found that he was now living in Melbourne, and so it had a phone number in the article. And I tried the phone number, rang him up, and Kyle answered the phone. And we got on really well, two Australians. And I said, look, Kyle, can I get on a plane and fly down and come and see you? And he says, he said, I'm not living in Melbourne anymore. I'm living in the Gold Coast. And I said, I'm living in the Gold Coast. I said, that knock at your door is me. And so I was around there in 10 minutes. Anyway, Kyle's very generous, good guy, and he showed me how to use an IV and also gave me some suppositories to try. And so I've been on it now for about a year. Now, uh, one of the things that impresses me most about the cyclodextrin, the Cavadex, is that when I used to get up in the mornings, even when I was like only 45, I'm 70 now, but I used to get up in the mornings when about 45 to 50, and my Achilles tendons would crackle and snap, crackle and pop as I walk to the toilet first thing. And that's because overnight they sort of calcify. Anyway, I just thought, well, that's normal. I'm getting old. I'm an old athlete, and so I've done a lot of little tears in my cartilages and stuff. Anyway, I find now the while I'm taking the cyclodextrin that I actually don't suffer any inflexibility. In fact, if anything, I get out of the morning, I get out of bed in the morning, and I can actually sprint to the toilet. I'm completely flexible, and I've been in my life about as flexible as a brick. Uh, I've always been very tight in the shoulders, very tight in the Achilles, very tight in the hamstrings, and suddenly I'm very flexible, and I think it's a wonderful thing. Now, as an example, my brother-in-law was visiting recently, and was a pretty good runner in his day. And here am I, 70 years old, and he's 32 years old. And he comes down and he challenges me, sees me doing sprints, 80-meter sprints. Comes down and he challenges me. And so I said, okay. So we had this race. Now, I didn't win. Of course, I didn't expect to win. But the thing is, he only beat me by half a metre. And the other thing is, I didn't get any angina pains. And that's what tipped me off to this heart disease in the first place. Now, a lot of people don't know about angina. Angina, if you've got angina, that's a good thing. It's a good thing because it's a warning signal. A lot of people, they say heart disease is a silent killer. A lot of people get heart disease and they don't know they've got it. And then one day they just fall over dead, gone. Whereas if you get angina and it starts to get worse and you can get a pain up your neck like this and then it actually goes into your jaw, stop whatever it is you're doing because you are about to die. And the thing is, my angina, since I've been taking the Cavadex, my angina is now completely minimal. And I can see that in the next year or so, if I keep taking it every day, then I am going to be completely clear. My arteries will have been cleaned out. And I got to give it to Kyle to have the guts to clean out his own arteries. And then to have, I mean, he's got about 8 or 9 stents, like that's got to be a world record. And to be able to continue drinking and smoking when he's got that level of ill health and have that much belief in his product, well, it's a very convincing attitude.